Alright, in line with my current review schedule, the first Saturday of March, April, and May will be the main series Ratchet and Clank games on the PS3, starting with Tools of Destruction.
Ratchet and Clank's first adventure on the PlayStation 3. Considering how Jak and Daxter didn't make the jump to the PS3 with a new game, nor did Sly Cooper until 2013, Ratchet and Clank is Sony of America's longest running series, or at least the one with the most games. And that's why I consider Ratchet and Clank to be the mascots for Sony of America. Tools of Destruction is the first entry into the Ratchet and Clank Future series and Insomniac's second game on the PlayStation 3, following the launch title Resistance Fall of Man, a game that was vastly different from the likes of the PS1 Spyro games and the Ratchet and Clank series that Insomniac has developed.
But thankfully Insomniac said, hey, we gotta make a cartoony platform game for the PlayStation 3 since Naughty Dog and Insomniac are now working on Uncharted and Infamous, and I'll say this, that bumped them up a couple notches in my book.
I think I would have to say that Insomniac is one of my favorite developers, mainly because Ratchet and Clank is one of my favorite series. In terms of my favorite platform games, Ratchet and Sly tend to switch places as to which takes the number one spot. And lately, Ratchet has not only taken it, but has been holding that number one spot for quite a while now. And this game in particular holds some significance to me as it was the first PlayStation 3 game that I bought back in 2007. This is also the 6th time I played this game. The first time I played it is when it came out. The second time was right after, and I got all the weapons and upgraded them to the max. Third time, again, right after the second one, and this time I completed the Rhino and maxed it out. And right after that, I played it a fourth time and used nothing but the Rhino. And by that time, I had every single item and unlockable and all the skill points.
It takes a lot for me to go beyond the story mode and be compelled to grab every single item unlockable, so yeah, this game had something special for me.
The New York Times, which surprised me to see they took time out of their day to acknowledge a video game, said that this game truly gives you that you are playing a Pixar movie feeling, and I have to agree with him. The game looks fantastic for an early PlayStation 3 game. Usually in a game you could see the edges of polygons and close-up shots depending on the angle, but it's barely noticeable here. The animation is miles ahead and better than the original PlayStation 2 trilogy. They really went all out on making it look like something we'd see in a movie theater. Speaking of, the Ratchet and Clank movie coming out next year is going to be using the same in-game models to work with the movie and how it's going to play out in production. The music in this game goes with a different motif. Instead of that technology is magical theme, the music fits the action and the levels.
And I welcome the change in the music. After all, they brought the series onto a brand new system. It's time to do something different, but at least nothing was changed too drastically.
The music is more action-orientated than the previous titles, like music you'd hear in a Die Hard movie, and it really adds to the presentation of that movie feeling you get while playing it. It still retains that run-and-gun platform game element. You still get a ton of weapons. A few make a return from the PlayStation 2 games like the whip, buzzsaw, rocket launcher, and homing missiles. Gadgets make a return. Most of them are staples to the series, like the grind, magnet, and jet boots, but one new element is called devices, which are kind of a weaponized gadget with a very limited usage. There's leech bombs that steal enemy health and gives it to you, and an RC copter, which I never used. But then there's the Groovitron, which is the best item in the game. Insomniac had this idea from the very first one, but deemed it was too powerful.
It is indeed powerful, and combined with the BFG 9000, you'll pretty much clear out a room instantly. It's like shooting fish in a barrel with a grenade launcher.
There is balance to the devices, however. While extremely powerful, it's rare to pick them up in the field. The device vendor is pretty rare to find, and buying one device is obscenely expensive. Like the previous games, you can level up your weapons and upgrade them, which is a lot easier in this game as it just throws rare titanium at you, which you need to upgrade your weapons. And it also throws bolts at you, allowing you to purchase all the weapons and armor with no issue. And there are weapon vendors everywhere, allowing you to refill not only your ammo at a small cost, but restore your health for free. And combined with how they made Ratchet feel a lot more acrobatic so avoiding enemies is easier, it makes this game a cakewalk.
Regardless of the lack of challenge that this game has compared to the older ones, I still had a really fun time, and that's because there's more emphasis on the adventure itself.
They added in some fun elements like the gyrocycle, but it can only be used in certain sections instead of just calling upon it whenever you want. The hacking sections are like those Marble Labyrinth games, and it uses the controller's motion sensor. There's more emphasis on exploration, and boy do they reward you for exploring with stockpiles of bolts and rare titanium. The previous games did not reward you this much for exploring. The space fights are a rail shooter, but are done very well, like when you fly next to a star. The worlds are overall bigger and less enclosed than they were in the previous titles, but that's all because of the, at the time, new hardware.
And with the PlayStation 3's hardware, they were able to give us a much deeper story, which is a major difference considering the older games had a more simplified story.
There's a lot more character development this time around, but it seems to backpedal only so it can re-establish the relationship between Ratchet and Clank. We're introduced to Talon Apogee and her sidekicks Kronk and Zephyr, who also appear in the last game of the trilogy, Into the Nexus, which is a first in that new characters being introduced and reappearing in another main series game. And a character called the Smuggler appears in all 3 main games. Captain Quark was given a really good comedic role in this game. Kronk and Zephyr I find to be incredibly annoying. They're the old senile war hero types which can be funny like Grandpa Simpson, but because there's 2 of them and they only act that way towards each other without the other characters interacting with them, they come off as annoying.
I'm just glad they're rarely around, but besides them, the humor is done really well. They really did step up their game here, and that's a really good thing because they made Ratchet and Clank's first game on the PlayStation 3 a really memorable one.
As I said earlier, the game has a really deep story, so if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this point in the review. Ratchet and Clank start off in Metropolis, where a huge invasion begins and they meet Emperor Percival Tachyon, self-proclaimed crown prince of the Kragmites and ruler of the galaxy, and he wants to exterminate all the Lombaxes, and the one that's left is Ratchet. They manage to escape and Clank has a vision of the Zoni, which give him visions throughout the story. They meet the Smuggler, who helps them to another planet, and then they find the Hall of Knowledge, which gets invaded, and they flee to the nearest planet, which just so happens to be the home planet of the Lombaxes, which is totally abandoned.
Ratchet's expression here is a really good one. It shows some really good character development as he finally realizes that, hey, he is the last Lombax, and all that weight comes crushing down on him, and he realizes what he needs to do.
They fix up an old Lombax ship that tells them how Fastoon became abandoned. They meet Quark, who gives them a video talking about how Tachyon is looking for something called the Lombax Secret. They go to a place where Tachyon thought it was hidden to look for clues. They meet Talwyn, Kronk, and Zephyr, who tell them about Talwyn's father, who found a clue pertaining to the Lombax Secret, but it was stolen by space pirates. The Smuggler had mentioned the pirates hiding out on another planet, and they go there to take back the artifact, which leads them to another planet where they find an old projector that talks about the Dimensionator, which so happens to be the Lombax Secret believed to have destroyed the Kragmites and is at a testing facility on another planet.
We're sorry, Ratchet, but your weapon of mass genocide is on another planet.
They meet the plumber, who asks if they were looking for a device capable of vaporizing entire species, and then says that it just doesn't exist. Clank surmises that the Kragmites weren't destroyed, but were instead moved somewhere else. Quark gives them another clue, which leads them to a pirate base where a supercomputer is being held. Clank is given a vision by the Zoni of Talwyn in a prison. This is where Ratchet and Clank's relationship sort of regresses to when they first met. Ratchet starts acting antagonistic to Clank, saying that Clank should listen to his real friends instead of his imaginary ones. I don't get why this happened because Ratchet and Clank have been friends for a long time now, and you think that Ratchet would trust Clank regardless of how crazy he sounds.
You would think that Ratchet would just trust Clank, or Clank would say, hey, we've been friends for a while, have I ever been wrong? Trust me on this. Something like that, because this is really just here to create tension that never needed to be there in the first place.
It's also revealed that Tachyon was found frozen as an egg and raised by the Lombaxes, who took pity on him. Once he found out about his true heritage, he waged war on the Lombax race. They free Talwyn and head to another planet to find the Dimensionator, which is stolen by space pirates. They follow the pirates to get the Dimensionator back, and while Ratchet and Clank bicker, Ratchet wanting to keep it and Clank saying it should be destroyed, Quark steals it, saying that he plans on throwing it into a black hole but instead heads to the nearest planet, the homeworld of the Kragmites. Ratchet fears that Quark will give the Dimensionator to Tachyon because, well, it's Quark. He'll do anything to save his own hide. They find Tachyon wearing the Dimensionator with Quark at his feet. This is left up to your own interpretation. Either Quark honestly meant to destroy the Dimensionator and Tachyon caught him and threatened Quark's life, prompting the coward to give it up.
Or, and the most likely reasons, he did it just to please his new boss because he's a grade A suck-up, just like in the first game.
Tachyon activates the Dimensionator and brings the Kragmites back from exile. Ratchet and Clank are separated. Ratchet, thinking Clank has died, laments on how he was right, but Clank comes back and they almost hug. They fight off Tachyon's forces and save Quark and then head back to Fastoon for the final battle. Tachyon reveals that when he started the war against the Lombaxes, they fled to another dimension except for 2, an adult Lombax and his infant son. Tachyon admits to killing Ratchet's father and meant to kill Ratchet too, but Ratchet was sent to Veldon, which is the very first planet from the first game. Tachyon opens a portal up to the new Lombax homeworld, giving Ratchet a chance to be with his people. Upon seeing this, you can tell that Ratchet considered taking this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity by going into the portal.
And Clank, who was told that Ratchet would need him at this very important moment, does nothing!
You can argue that Clank knew that Ratchet would do the right thing and stay to stop Tachyon, but I still think he should have said something, like the galaxy needs you, they need you, I need you type of thing. Cliche, yeah, but still better than just staring at him. But Ratchet says that no one is safe as long as Tachyon has the Dimensionator and fights him. Tachyon says that he knows Ratchet's real name and his true purpose. Tachyon's defeat is a bittersweet victory for Ratchet. Wondering if Tachyon was right about Ratchet and his purpose, and Clank reassures him that yeah, Tachyon was right, and that Ratchet fulfilled his purpose, which was stopping Tachyon. The Zoni appear again, this time visible to everyone, and they hypnotize Clank and take him away, setting up the sequel, A Crack in Time.
Well, technically it sets up the midquel quest for Booty, which then goes directly into A Crack in Time, but this does mark the first time that the games are directly connected.
The previous installments were loosely connected or not at all. With the PS2 trilogy, they were loosely connected. The second game references the first in the beginning, and the third game is loosely connected to the Secret Agent Clank spin-off. With Tools of Destruction, Quest for Booty, and A Crack in Time, they are all directly connected in one grand and epic story. I haven't played Into the Nexus yet, but from what I've read, it's not a direct connection, but we'll come to that road in May. The story is a really good one and is written very well with really good character development, and the depth of it gives a sense of an epic adventure as it tells you some history about the Lombaxes, and hints at Clank's destiny with the Zoni when they appear and help him.
And what's funny, for a game that's about 6.5 years old, it feels like it's been so much longer.
Yeah, 6 years is a long time, but it could be that time has just gone by really fast, so looking at things from 6 years ago makes it feel ancient. I am not saying this game has aged badly at all, but it feels a lot older than it is due to time moving so fast. In the way this game has aged, it's like finding a penny dated 6 years ago on the ground and it looks freshly printed. You can pop this sucker in and think it was just released. It's that well crafted. I haven't played Quest for Booty, A Crack in Time, or Into the Nexus yet, although I played the demo for A Crack in Time when that was released and it seemed epic. Insomniac did a really good job when it came to bringing Ratchet and Clank to the PlayStation 3. This game and A Crack in Time are pretty rare, at least in my area, as I had a hard time finding them.
If you haven't played this yet and you somehow managed to find a copy, pick it up. You're not going to be disappointed because it's an adventure that's well worth the price of admission.